This is Tech Addicts.
This week, you'll be surprised to know there's been more rumours about the Pixel Watch. Motorola have a new cheap phone, exciting specs for the Samsung Galaxy Z Phone 4, Insteon is dead, and Apple scan for Samantha Fox. Hello and welcome to the Tech Addicts podcast. I'm with Father Ted Crilly and I'm Mr. Father Dougal Miles.
We'll come to that reference later, no doubt. Hello, everyone. Yes, weather report is sunny and cloudy and quite warm. And I'm all right, thank you. And everything's ticking along. And it's Sunday. It's nearly May already. Can you believe it?
It is. It's crazy. It's May. That means my grief. My anniversary's coming up.
Oh, blimey.
2 weeks. Flip. Right. Okay. Weather here is beautiful. Blue skies. Sun splitting the sky. I don't know how it's splitting. It's blue with the sun in the middle of it. So how is that splitting the sky?
It's not. It's an illusion.
Yeah. Okay. Blue with sun in the sky. And the birds are tweeting. I've got the window open. If you hear them, sorry. If you don't, sorry.
I'm sure they'd rather hear your birds tweeting than my trains going by.
True. Yes. It's getting hot there, being in your van.
It is getting warm, yeah, but it's not out of control. In fact, last night I had a jumper on, and when I was watching the telly, so night times are nice and cool still, but yeah, when the sun comes out in the daytime, it tends to roast things. I did have windows and doors open a couple of days ago.
Right, okay. So, yeah, well, I suppose it's the time of the year when that sort of thing happens. I was in the shed yesterday for 20 minutes, and I left because I was breaking a sweat.
Yeah.
It was that hot.
Indeed.
All right. Also hot is the feedback section, which is full of bits and pieces, or at least it's got one topic that a lot of people have contributed to. Jeremy Hartham has written in about the Sinclair's 8-bit home computer, the ZX Spectrum, turning 40. And he says, my first real intro into computing, as I owned it. If I forgot the occasional acoustic coupler experience, and luckily enough to be in the first few months of the deliveries, meaning that I started at 16K and eventually moved to 48K microdrives et al. Only replaced 6 years later by the Atari ST. Interesting switch, Rooney there, that is, I have to say. I sold the last one, one broke, but I still have the Spectrum Plus 48K, which is, is the toaster rack is the 48, or is that the 128? I can never remember. No, the toast rack's the 128, that's right. In the attic. Might have to dig it out, complete with the tape recorder. What was your first foray into computing? And this chap called Ted Salmon has written in, and I believe we can get an accurate rendition of exactly how this was put across to Jeremy by Ted Crilly, the Ted Salmon impersonator.
Verbal means. The thing is that when I started off with computing in the kind of middle 80s, I didn't do this whole kind of home Atari Spectrum thingy, or anything else that was kind of, consumer based, because the first time I used anything with computing was at work, and I had an IBM XT, and so I started to program stuff. We've spoken before in BBC Basic and IBM XT language, DOS and stuff like that, and I didn't really move away from that. So when I wanted a computer at home, I went for the BBC Micro, or was it the Acorn? But it was whatever that BBC thing was, and I just didn't, the Spectrum and Sinclair and all that sort of stuff just wasn't on my radar at all. So I missed out on all of this, I'm afraid.
Oh, well, that's a shame. It was a wonderful time.
Yeah.
Adrian Brain has mentioned that his was the ZX 81, which is the one that has turned 40, not the ZX80. I think we covered that a while ago in Harkback as well. After he played with it at his girlfriend, or he played with it at his brother's girlfriend's house, the ZX80 that is, which was assembled himself. Phillip Wray said he had the VIC-20.
VIC-20?
The VIC-20, which was the old Commodore.
Oh, right.
If you remember, it was before the 64. Actually, come to think of it, there's a Commodore 65 currently for sale on eBay.
Yeah.
Which is a very rare, the Mega 65 it was called. I don't know if it's sold yet, but it was tens of thousands of pounds or dollars.
Wow.
It was going to go for because it was mint as well. There were very, very few of those actually made it out of the factory at all. Wayne Kelly was on the VIC-20 as well. He used the ZX80 and the ZX81 at school, which is also interesting because generally schools have BBCs, I believe. Running an old massive black and white TV. Always thought the ZX80 looked better and more futuristic than the ZX81. That's an interesting idea. I much prefer the ZX81 over the ZX80, and I actually declined buying a ZX80 at one stage because I just thought it was really ugly. ZX81 was much nicer. Yeah. Do you want to take the next couple?
Yeah, Chris Kelly. I first had one at home, and it was the ZX80. But before that, I used the Commodore PET to learn BASIC, which is the coding language. Beginner's all-purpose instruction code, he explains. At college, this is for Chris in the late 1970s. And he links to the wiki page about the Commodore PET, which I've never heard of either. Matt Jones. I was a great ZX81 guy. A while back, I discovered the ZX81 emulator on the iPad and managed to remember enough to write a simple program that ran first time with no syntax errors. I was really impressed considering it was nearly 40 years ago, and I was only about 12 at the time and had nothing to do with even trying to program these things since. Xerxes Hodivala rounds things up by saying he had the ZX81, the Acorn Atom, the ZX Spectrum, and the Atari 800 XL. These were all great in their ways, but when I switched to an Atari ST, I went on to university. That machine was in a different league, the Atari ST. I learned 4 different programming languages on it.
Yeah. Of that, I remember the 800 XL from Atari. That was a beautiful machine.
Right.
Absolutely gorgeous to look at. And I think it had a top loader cartridge system in it as well, so it was compatible. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but it was compatible with the game library that Atari already had acquired during the 80s.
You see, if I'd done all this, I would have known what all these games that you refer to all the time are about, but I just didn't. Because at the time I was working in a care home in the NHS, National Children's Home, and I suppose what you're saying about the BBC and Education Department is probably true, because there were 2 BBC machines there, and there was the XTC, the IBM, and it was all very educational based. So that was where I was led into it, and so I suppose I just stayed there.
Yeah. I guess it's difficult whenever I sort of always looked down my nose because I had an Amstrad CPC that sat on my dad's desk, and I was able to go over, sit on his big chair, and be able to turn it on and have a dedicated computer playtime.
Right.
Whereas if I had 2 friends up round the corners, opposite corners to be honest, so you go left for the Spectrum, right for the Commodore, and whenever they brought them out to play, they'd have to take it out, and there was a maze of wires. You'd have to hook it up to the TV, get the tape deck, and I think whenever it came to the Commodore 64, it didn't always work first or second or third time. You had to keep trying until it eventually started to work, and it was on the big shag carpet that they had, so you had to worry about the power brick overheating, a bit like with the Xbox a couple of years ago. So they had to put that up on a brick or a tile or something to keep it cool. And the Spectrum as well, which belonged to my friend's older brother, he'd bring it out, and there would be a mess of tapes, and there would all be copies, and he had a stereo as well in the same box, so he could copy games from one to the other, and he just every time you went round, he had a different game that he was playing. I remember we played a game called School Days, which is one of the greatest games ever made on an 8-bit system. If you get a chance or you haven't played it, do go back, because it's almost like you're free to do whatever you want around a school, and just you're given lines for everything you do wrong, and if you get 10,000 lines, you're kicked out. That's the end of the game. But you can beat people up, you can use your slingshot and things like that. It was such a fun game, especially to like an 8 or 10-year-old. But we were playing that for a couple of weeks, and then the next week he tipped over it. He'd got something else, and we were like, "Oh no, not that game!" But he only had the one tape or a couple of tapes, and he was just amassing his own games through that. So it was always really a mess. Whereas the way we had it in my house, it was just so neat and laid out, and you dedicated time. I always preferred that. Maybe that's why I'm a big Amstrad-y snobby type, compared to the wires and the chaotic mess of Spectrums and Commodores in years gone by.
You wanted a station set up, and that's it. It's
which is what everybody wants now.
Yeah, exactly. With their gaming chair and their multicolour keyboards. I suppose the true answer for me really is back to 1977. I remember in 1977 we plugged in the Pong machine to the back of the portable TV, black and white portable TV, and played this table tennis game Pong thingy, and you had to plug it into the aerial socket, and it was that's all it did. And yet I can remember doing this for hours. We were just completely absorbed in this stupid simple game, which nowadays people would only give about 2 seconds to before giving up, like playing noughts and crosses, for goodness sake. But yeah, I suppose if that counts as a computer, I claim 1977.
No, it does. That was a big step toward it, and I remember picking up a thing, I think it was made by Binatone or Binatone, however you want to pronounce it. It was this orange games console with these 2 paddles, and I got it for a $5 out of a shop called The Exchange in the centre of my town, which isn't there anymore, but you could bring in an old guitar and exchange it for an Atari if you needed to, and then someone else could do it the other way around later on. It cost you a $5 everything you exchanged.
Right.
And I had this Binatone, and we took it back up. It was advertised as a games console sitting on this shelf. You couldn't plug it in and have a look to see what it did. But we took it up and we plugged it in, and we were like, "Oh, what's going to happen?" And it was Pong that came on, and we were so disheartened by it. It's like, flipping heck.
You're joking.
Yeah, you took a couple of steps back, thinking you'd stumbled upon this great console, and the friend that I went with had a Nintendo Entertainment System sitting there, and instantly we had it turned off, and we were back on Mario 3 or something like that, or Mario 2, and enjoying a much better game that showed years of progression. Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't say better, no, but a much more progressed game. Different. Yeah,
anyway,
newer.
Thank you, Jeremy, for raising that. That was a good meander into the past.
Yeah, it's almost hark back early in the show.
Yeah. I've been using the Object Desktop again this week. I decided I spoke about it on the last week's show, and I was using Fences and Start 11, and I'm quite enjoying it on Android, on Windows 10. It does make it feel a bit like Windows 11. Anyway, so I bought in, well, I didn't buy in, but I got the trial for the whole package, the Object Desktop, and there's one that I'm working my way through them, but the one that I wanted to just highlight was Spacemonger, which is good fun, and it's very much like that one you put me onto. What was it called now? Let me see if I can find it. Winderstat. Winderstat. And if you launch this Spacemonger, it gives you an analysis of all your drives and everything, and it lets you kind of see what's hogging your space. That's really good. So that was quite nice. And also feeding back on the Ugreen 100-watt USB-C charger thingy, which is absolutely stonking. So good shout from Steve Litchfield there. And it's really powerful and strong, and you can watch, if you've got a device that will let you see it, and it's got the capability, you can just watch the the percentage of power going up as it's just plug it in and watch it going up, and 10 minutes later you're charged up. It's amazing. There's divided opinion, of course, about how good what it's doing to the battery and the phones, but the point is that it's very, very fast. Good unit, really solid, ever so heavy and big and chunky, but it does a really good job.
Yeah, and the link you've put in the show notes there, it was £80, but it's now down to 64, which is 20% off.
That's what I paid. Yeah,
it's a good catch. That
good stuff.
Right, so if you want one, buy it now. Find the link there.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving into the hardware news, there's one big topic that quite a lot of people are talking about right now, and that is the Pixel Watch. And now analysis and I suppose hackery and news and rumours and things like that have all been combined, and they believe that, given the intellects that are collated here, that Google are actually going to call this Pixel Watch the Pixel Watch. So
yes.
Right, yeah, that's news.
Would seem to make sense, wouldn't it?
It does, yeah. Well, I would have loved to see what they actually came up with. But there's one thing that bothers me about this is that Google bought Fitbit. Fitbit was a very established brand, and people would say, "Oh, is that a Fitbit on your wrist?" Whenever you've got something else. And you are wondering, because Fitbit is one of those names that you have embedded whenever it comes to fitness tracking apps or hardware. It's a Fitbit. That's I've forgotten what you call it, but that's what you associate with a fitness tracker on your wrist.
Yeah.
But Google now own that, but they're not putting Fitbit into the title here, despite the fact some of the early renders, and Evan Blass has put up a couple of images. One of the early renders shows the Fitbit logo in the middle of the screen, which means Fitbit is still going to be very much part of this, but it's obviously not going to be in the hardware branding, which is weird after, so much effort has been put into establishing Fitbit as a brand. Google are moving it away, or making it, maybe it'll say featuring Fitbit or something like that on the box or on their posters, but it's not in the title, which is strange.
Yeah. Of course, this is only a leak and a render, which someone has presumably dreamt up. Although there was a story in the press last night that said that they'd done an Apple with this and left a unit in a pub somewhere that someone had picked up. And did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, they reckon that they'd done the same trick as Apple did. So it's purposeful leaks all the time, isn't it? That I think is what's happening here. What one of those articles that you're linking to there does say, however, is that there's no real confidence that this is going to happen at I/O in May. More likely to be in October, when the new Pixel is launched, the Pixel 7 is launched, and they might well do it all together. But no one really knows anything, do they? It does look gorgeous, though. If those renders are right, and if that is a proper sighting of the real thing, it looks just lovely. It looks very Apple, actually. It looks like some Apple design, and I guess that's purposeful. So very, very nice.
Yeah. But I'm still, I've said it before, but I'm really hoping that they're not just going to go with the Pixel Watch being a fitness tracker.
Oh yeah,
something that's probably like a high-end costing fitness tracker to occupy where Fitbit was. That's not going to suffice.
No.
I'm expecting there to be a couple of options here. One that rivals the Galaxy Watch 5 in its it has everything in it, and you can use your Google Assistant through it and see your tasks on all sorts of stuff. Control your music, everything in there. I won't be happy if it's just if it's just a fitness tracker.
Yeah, I agree.
You can get those for £20 off AliExpress.
Yeah, or off Amazon. I can't believe the prices of these things on Amazon. Even mainstream UK, not AliExpress. They're dirt cheap, aren't they?
They are. But one thing that isn't dirt cheap, and it's going to turn some heads whenever it arrives, is the GameSir X3. And this is a game controller that has been launched on Indiegogo that has a new well, like a couple of new features that didn't feature on the previous incarnations of the game, sirs. That it has a fan on the back, for one, and also it has, and this is one thing I very much like, magnetic buttons, so that you can change your button layout depending on how you actually want to play the game, because there are a couple of different button layouts. If you have a look at, say, an Xbox controller and your Nintendo Switch, there's one way that people prefer it. And I know that Evercade had some bother whenever they first came out, because the button layout was a bit messy on particular games and things. So it is something that people do shout about whenever it happens. So GameSir seem to be taking the right approach here by addressing it, so you can make it up whatever way you want. Also, you can replace the D-pad as well. You
can put your knob where you like.
You can, yeah. So which I suppose is the way of the world, isn't it? The D-pad being able to change it, there's people who prefer different things under their thumbs, and it does give the modding community a bit more of a sense of what they can do here. The big problem with this, and it goes back to the newest version of Android 12, is that the USB Type-C has been disconnected for certain things, and that includes these gaming joypad add-ons.
Yeah, you were saying that.
I tried to use mine a while ago, and it doesn't work right now.
Mad.
It is, yeah. So it's a bad time for these sorts of things to be releasing, unless there's something else going on here. Perhaps I didn't actually check that. Does it have Bluetooth built in, so that if USB-C power isn't working, or USB-C isn't working to connect and control it, you might be able to connect via Bluetooth to it. Yes, there'll be a Bluetooth equipped variant.
Right. So not a standard then.
Oh no, that's talking. It's not going to be as versatile as some models of the X2 before.
Does that USB-C plug move up and down for things that are not central?
I don't think so. No.
Right.
I don't think there's too many phones on the market that have an off-center USB Type-C.
There are some, but yes, I grant you, most of them are not. That's true.
But the point about the fan as well, that's a contentious one. If you have a look at the image of the controller as well, there's a USB Type-C over to the right under one of the Joy-Cons for plugging in. That's the pass-through to charge your phone. But there's also a secondary USB Type-C that needs to be plugged in if you want to use the fan. So the fan can't run off the battery in your phone, which isn't a bit of an odd idea.
No playing on the bus then?
Well, you can play on the bus, you just can't cool on the bus unless you maybe have a backup battery with the USB Type-C cable on it. But yeah, it's a grand thing. Once again, what was it? Chad Dixon wrote in last week or the week before to tell me of some of the games that he was playing, because Android as a gaming platform, I don't think is terribly appealing to the majority, aside from those who are already invested in some of the big titles that are out there on there. But I don't see people rushing out to buy these just to get in on the Android gaming scene. I think they've already got to be invested in either Call of Duty or one of those types of games before they actually do purchase it. They'll go out and get a Switch first. And at the price of this, at $99, it's going to be quite a hard sell. Even though it has a lot of,
I think a lot of it's down to the developers, doesn't it? Isn't it? If developers make Android games really very joystick friendly and button friendly as an option, then it might well take off. But if you've still got to touch the screen and you don't get that option with games, it's not going to go anywhere, is it? And particularly if you've got to pay another £100 to get one of these units to make it all happen anyway.
Yeah. But I have had a good laugh with the X2 over the years. I've very much enjoyed playing some of the games on it. Some of the driving games are absolutely terrific, but you've got to know what you're getting into whenever you start playing them. And then there's an app that goes along with it that can increase your compatibility with it. But from time to time, it gets removed from the Play Store. And I think there was someone giving off in the comments section under my unboxing of the GameSir X2 saying that they couldn't get the app, or perhaps it wasn't available in their region, which is a problem.
Right.
Yeah. But you can pop off the tops of the Joy-Cons as well and replace those two if there's a different type of... Yeah, so all the controllers on it are interchangeable, which doesn't help with drift. It just helps with comfort and accuracy.
I'd quite like the right-hand joystick thingy, where the 4 buttons are, the A, B, X, Y buttons. That's obviously not a physical option. They seem to be stuck with that. I think I would like to have my 2 thumbs on the 2 joysticks at the top, but
okay.
That's not an option. Although you could probably turn it upside down. No, you can't. Yes, you can. So you could put the red one where the cross thingy is, and then they would both be at the top if you turn it upside down.
I don't know. You can actually change the Joy-Con position. I think you can just pop off the actual Joy-Con and replace it with a different Joy-Con, one that's
well, they haven't
more
thought it out
comfortable
properly,
for you.
have they? They should have asked me.
Concave and convex.
Load of bollocks.
Well, no, this is the way I like it to be laid out like that. I want the buttons to be above the right-hand Joy-Con.
Okay.
I'm happy with that.
Okay, that's all right then. As long as you're happy.
Yes, well, that's all that matters, isn't it? One thing that does make me happy is whenever Anchor release a new USB Type-C hub for your tablet or computer or whatever. And Ted, you've linked to the 551 8-in-1 USB Type-C hub for tablet standy type thing. What's so special?
Well, I was hoping you might help me with this because you also linked to it, I think, in your on your website. And it looks like it's just a very well thought out, nicely made Anchor unit, which allows you to put your tablet or even phone, I guess, on this thingy, and it's very flexible in terms of the way it moves, and it's got all sorts of connections, a pass-through power charging up to 100 watts, which means you can, properly use it as a hub, connect it to whatever device you want, I suppose. I'm not sure how... there's not very good pictures of it. I couldn't find any actual close-up photos of how it actually connects to your tablet, or whether if that's cable, or whether there's a slot, or whether it is. But anyway, it's got all sorts of USB-A ports and micro SD card slots, and you could really, if this does work with an iPad, for example, as opposed to just any old Android tablet, then it will kind of opens up the way in which you can use it. And it does say it supports iOS or iPad OS rather. So maybe it doesn't work with iPhones. But anyway, yeah, lots of nice ports and stuff, and made of aluminium. Looks really nice. £100 again. It's the £100 show. But I couldn't. Could you find any more close-up photos to see what it actually, where the ports are and what have you?
No, I don't remember this before. I tweeted out a link to the 655, which is a USB-C hub 8-in-1.
Oh, okay.
And it kind of looks a wee bit like, I suppose, if you were to look at it straight on it, a bit of a camera or digital camera. It's a good looking thing. But Chris Kelly reports that some of the comments say that the laptops can struggle with this, and if it's got compatibility issues with the M1 MacBooks as well. So some of the USB Type-C hubs might not be as good as they claim at the moment, but then I suppose features and things get upgraded as time goes on, and USBs get disconnected from Android 12 and things like that.
It's quite a nice idea, though, isn't it? If you're using a tablet as your main computer, and supposing, for example, you've got Dex going on your Galaxy Tab, and you put this thing on this stand and you plug everything into it. You've got a Bluetooth keyboard on the go and a Bluetooth mouse, and you're just using that as a computing device. And I can see that it's very attractive. And if you want to, the picture I can see is that you can then move it downwards if you want to use a pen or a stylus and forget about the keyboard and what have you. I think it's a nice idea, and as usual with Anchor stuff, it looks like it's really nicely made, but it's not cheap, I suppose.
No, but it looks like it folds down into a tidy little bundle because it's essentially a Z shape with the bit that holds the tablet at the top, and then the standy part, and then the base unit, and then that all folds down quite nicely together, and you can just throw it in your bag and away you go. But then you've got to have all the power cables as well that are required there too. So it turns into a whole messy experience whenever you've got all of these connections and you try to utilize them. So it's I have used these in the past.
Here's some
with
photos.
my S7.
I found some photos.
Okay.
There's a link at the bottom to the Amazon listing on Amazon Co. UK. If you click on that, you can see some diagrams of what plugs in where and how it all works. And yeah, micro SD card slot, USB-C up to 100 watts, 2 USB-A ports, the HDMI out to 4K, 3.5mm audio. So you can see there what is what on it, and it looks really, really nice. I actually like the idea of this.
Okay, are we going to see you moving over to this, or are you going to stay with your desktop?
Well, the only tablet I've got is the Nokia T20,
Nokia.
which I don't think will do it justice, really. But if I had a Samsung tablet like you, I think it would be my duty to get one in for tech addicts.
£100? I don't think so. I've got a Chromebook that allows me to do all these things at this.
Yeah, I know. Too many devices.
True. But it's a very nice device, and I'm sure someone out there will think this is perfect for them if they're working out of a hotel or something like that. And, all right, up next is Insteon, who is a smart home app and server manufacturer that has quietly closed down, leaving the people who bought into their systems somewhat in a difficult place.
Ooh.
Yes. I did hear this during the week, actually, but I didn't recognise the name. And I suppose, this has to happen with upstarts who maybe are a bit too ambitious whenever it comes to the whole system. They manufacture this server that sits in your house, and you can use your phone to tell it to do things, like turn on ceiling lamps and turn on heaters and things like that around your house, depending on smart plugs and things. But all of that is kind of built into the likes of Google Assistant and Siri, so it might not be entirely necessary, or it might be a bit of overkill. So it's probably going to be difficult for them to build up traction. But I think the issue here is how they've gone about closing down their company by scrubbing their CVs and resumes of the name of the company that they were working in for however many years, and just closing the door, locking it, and running away.
Yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? It's the moral kind of standpoint of not doing things properly and looking after the people that have invested in their stuff. When a startup becomes an upstart, and the irony here is that "we're keeping the lights on" is their company motto, kind of tagline. We're keeping the lights on, and they're obviously not doing that. But yeah, I thought you would know about this because you're into the kind of home scene. They produced a variety of internet-connected lights, thermostats, plugs, sensors, and the Insteon Hub, which I guess is like what Amazon and Google are doing, and Apple to do with hubs and controlling all your stuff. But yeah, you're right. Walking away and locking the door and turning the lights off is not very nice to people.
No. But I suppose there's the whole hope that in the future that there's Aukey use a particular, was it Smart Life or something, an app that is an aggregator for a bunch of different manufacturers who make smart plugs and things like that. So they don't actually have to build the app themselves. They can just go and use this other one called Smart Life.
Right.
They could somehow manage to get the software kit or whatever that Insteon use, and then be able to take over but maybe that couldn't be negotiated, or maybe they were the CEOs or whatever of Insteon wanted too much money to be able to do that and decided, we'll walk away. But hopefully at some point the people who have purchased the hardware will be able to bridge it into some kind of other application, and that customer base can get their things working again at some point. But it's got to happen. I've got a bunch of I still haven't thrown them out. I've got a couple of D-Link plugs, a wireless camera, and there's something else. Oh, it's a wireless sensor as well, that are maybe about 5 years old, and they're not supported anymore. They're gone.
Right.
I can't use them. I had to unplug them and take them out of operation because I got an email from D-Link to say, we're done with these.
Right.
If you want to carry on, buy our new range. And it's like, well, hang on a second.
I suppose. I mean, when people sell stuff, they guarantee it for a year generally, don't they? They're only saying when you buy something. Generally, unless it specifically says so, or unless you buy it from John Lewis, it's a year. That's it. They're only saying our product will last for a year. That's what we're guaranteeing. Which is, but it just kind of sticks in the throat a bit, the way they've done it, as you say. Unlike, for example, what LG did with their mobile division and promising people 3 further years of updates for their flagships particularly. And I noticed this week that the V60 had Android 12 pushed to it, so they're sticking to what they said they were going to do, and so those customers, even though they feel let down, they are sticking with that promise. But where you've got a small startup company like Insteon, what chance do they stand in terms of doing something like a huge LG could do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And there's another company that springs to mind called Devolo, and their things, I think you can buy them out of Curry's and Dixon's Group. They are very expensive, but damn, they work. They're tough and robust, but they were just. It's got to be like an uphill battle for them to be able to get their devices out there, demanding those high prices, and convince people that their stuff does work. I have a lot of their stuff around the house because they picked me as one of their PR, or their PR picked me to help them sort of shift units over the years, and I love their stuff. It's absolutely terrific through the house. I'm not saying that because I don't work with them anymore, but I still have a load of stuff there, and it's really good, and there's constantly stuff coming out for it. Had I initially been looking at them in PC World or Curry's or whatever and gone, it's £260 for this. Oof, I don't know. This company that I've never heard of, to be honest, could be gone this time next year, and I'm left with nothing. But they kept going and going, and despite their high prices, somehow they managed to keep it together, and they're still available, and they're still cranking out good quality products. Yeah, it's a difficult world entering into, and Google made it very, very simple and very cheap.
You have to make decisions about who you trust, really, don't you? And it can be a bad decision or a good one, obviously. And like the whole to do with the Nokia HMD Global thing and the Nokia 9 PureView, promising to update it to the next version of Android OS, and then squelching on it, like the X20, the XR20 that I've got from Nokia, incidentally, which they promised 4 years of updates to. I mean, who's to say that in 2 years' time they won't squelch on that? But you'd like to hope, like with LG, you'd like to hope that they probably won't do that. But it's life's a gamble, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it is, absolutely, yeah. And shame on some of those companies.
Yeah.
So one of the most exciting things we saw this week was the Surface Duo Slim. This turns out to be a fan concept that someone's put out, where it's essentially taking the idea of the Samsung Galaxy Flip.
No, the Surface Duo.
Yeah, but it's taking the example of the Samsung Galaxy Flip.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
And turning it into, or turning the Microsoft phone into that kind of. But it looks ridiculous. It's got a black line down the middle of it, so you've got two squarish kind of screens looking at each other, whereas the Samsung has an uninterrupted screen that runs the length of the device. But, that's the way the Duo does it, so why wouldn't this? Essentially, it's like taking a Duo and cutting it in half.
Yeah, top to bottom. It's really odd. You're quite right. It's like the flip phone from Samsung and the one that Honor have now made, and I think there's an Oppo one that's coming along, and it's half size, and it's just not going to work. And this is, as you say, it's a fan concept, so there's no suggestion anywhere that this is anything like being real, and it probably isn't. So we probably shouldn't be wasting any time on it. But it's an interesting idea, and that line down the middle, if you're going to have the same kind of fold that is on the Surface Duo, which is a gap, then that's just not going to work in the same way. So I think it's a load of claptrap, frankly.
But you never know. Someone from Microsoft might be sitting going, yeah, we could call it the... Oh, I've forgotten the name of it. What was the little round slidey one? The Microsoft phones that were so poor. The Clay and the Clat or something like that. There were the two of them they put out.
Yeah, I can't remember.
They were god awful. I can't remember. It's not worth mentioning.
I quite like the idea of a flip phone, though. I quite like the whole Flip 3 thingy. The only trouble is that it's under specified, and you've got to make sure you get a big storage version of it to begin with, and it's still like 900 or 1,000 quid. I know it's not the same as fold money, but it's still quite a lot of money. But I do quite like the whole idea of the fold in half phone. I must say.
Okay, well, how about a fold in half laptop screen?
Yeah.
Because Asus ZenBook laptop has this big flexible OLED screen that you can fold in half.
Now that can change things.
Yeah. It's got a wee keyboard as well that you can set over half the screen, or you can just use it free of the screen and take the screen with you wherever you go. But it's essentially like, if you look at a laptop and imagine the bottom half of it is a screen, and it folds out fully like a big or a big tablet. I think we've seen something like this before. And one of the comments, someone mentions HP trying to design something like this. But yeah, it's huge. It's the a ZenBook 17 Fold OLED. Would you?
This could be a game. I think this could be a game changer. Frankly, they're talking about it's nearing limited release, which means nothing really, except that they've made a few, and if you've got pots of money, you can buy one probably if you're lucky and you know the right people. But I think that this idea could be a game changer, because if you open up a 17-inch laptop to it being, I can't do the maths, but it's 34. It's not going to be 34 inches, is it? But it's going to be huge, and you could open it up flat and then put it on a stand, like that anchor stand we spoke about earlier, and it becomes a big monitor in front of you. And as you say, if you don't want to use it in that way, you just turn it around, put the keyboard on or whatever, and use it in a different way. If you want to watch a film, you just open it up and stick it up somewhere and watch a film. And rephrase that,
please.
I think that this really could be the future. I think that they've, even if they might not have got the idea first, that Asus in the Zen range anyway are people that are likely to go and do it and actually make it happen. Unlike Oppo and the likes, where you see these concept devices that 5 years later they never went anywhere, and oh yeah, I remember that. But I think Asus are more likely to actually do it.
Yeah, well, it is a nice idea, and initially it seems a bit kind of whenever you look at it all folded up, but then you think that's pretty much the size of an IBM ThinkPad or something like that, which you would carry around with you anyway. So being able to open it up and have all these options, and I reckon that the traditional screen size, what is it? They say the 17.3 inch screen to be put into its the 16 by, or no, it was a 4:3 aspect ratio, which is 1920 by 1280, with the keyboard obscuring the other part of it, would probably be the default view. And it's whenever you're going into some sort of meeting or presentation, that's whenever you change it to the larger 3:2 aspect ratio.
Yeah. And if you try and measure that, I'm trying to do that with my fingers now. So that's 17 inches between corner to corner, and if you arc that out, then when it's opened up, it's probably about 20 or 21 inches. as the bigger screen. So it's like having a 21-inch monitor, probably.
Well, no, it's when it's folded down, and you've just opened it up and you've got the keyboard in place like a traditional laptop. It gives you a 12.5-inch laptop screen.
Oh, I see. Sorry, I thought it was 17 when it was folded. Oh, okay.
No, it's 17 in the 3x2 or the 4x3 aspect ratio of tablet slate.
Well, that's not so big as I thought it was then.
No,
in which case you can't really use it as a replacement for your desktop monitor, like I thought.
No, but you could use it folded, and it could be like a magazine.
Yeah, definitely.
So you could sit on the train or the bus reading a magazine.
You could,
and you have to flip the whole. I don't know. Flipping the page
looks
would
nice.
be difficult.
I want one.
It does. It'll have its place. I can't imagine it flying off the shelf and every Tom, Dick, or Harry wanting it. But I'm sure it'll certainly help certain media executives and things like that be able to show off their latest project or something.
Really, really nice.
Right. Well, the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4 is being rumoured, and it's possible that it's going to have a 108 megapixel main camera, which is a bit of a relief because the 3 was a bit of a mixed bag whenever it came to the hardware levels, and chucking in bigger specs is probably what most people were hoping for whenever it came to the Z Fold 4, and
I thought they were dropping the Z.
Well, they might do. They're talking about the rebrand soon, so they might be changing. Maybe they're getting rid of the Galaxy altogether, and it'll just be the Samsung Fold or something like that. Well, you never know. They might do.
Don't believe it.
It is complex. It doesn't need to be there, does it?
Yeah, that's a well-established brand. I can't believe that. But they were talking about dropping the Z because of Ukraine and all that, weren't they?
Oh yeah.
But they GSM Arena are not reporting the fact that it won't be called Z. So I don't know.
No, but they're hoping to put a Snapdragon Gen 1 or Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 Plus chipset in here. And have a lighter and thinner body compared to the predecessor, but still no holster for that S Pen.
They reckon that this essentially is going to be the Galaxy S22 Ultra in terms of hardware, upgrading the cameras significantly, and in the folding form factor, as you say, with the 8 Gen 1 Plus. So yeah, looks nice as always with Samsung stuff. I'm sure it will be nice, depending on what they do with that 108 megapixel camera, of course, and how much they make it a sensible one and not just a numbers game one. But we'll have to see, won't we?
Yeah. I'm just looking at that image that they've attached to the article where it shows the person taking a picture of someone taking a picture of them.
Yeah.
And I have a thing that I dislike about selfies in that everyone's eye contact is a wee bit off because they're looking at the screen of the phone instead of the camera lens.
Yeah.
What they're showing here is where the Fold 3, I'm guessing that is pointed toward the person who's taking the picture, and if you were to use this feature that they have where you can see the picture that the person is taking to see that you look all right, things like that, then your eyes are going to be even further away from looking at the lens because you're going to be studying yourself.
Yes, I see what you mean. Yeah. And the only way to fix that is to put the camera under the glass right in the middle of that image.
Yes, quite right. Or just not do that and say, everybody look at the lens.
Yeah.
Because you got to look at the lens. The last thing you want to do is see yourself in a picture because you'll never be perfect no matter how much you try.
I remember that.
You're all ugly.
Yeah, I agree. Except me. I remember that first compact camera that came out. Do you remember? Was it a Kodak? The very first one that had a forward-facing screen. And it was like about an inch across the screen. It was tiny weeny. And it was all the rage for a while. And then the idea fagged away, I think.
Well, it was. I remember it being on the back of, I think it was the HTC Titan or something. There was a little, a tiny little bit of silver like a ball or something that they pushed into the casing, and that was your selfie mirror.
Yeah.
So you could see yourself whenever you were taking a picture of yourself.
I remember that, yeah. And then latterly, Xiaomi did it, didn't they? With was it the Mi 12 or Mi 11?
That's right, yeah.
This giant ultra device with this big picture on the back, but next to the camera. And mind you, that picture was right next to the lens, so you could say, well, that's a bit better then.
All right, we've got a moto to talk about here. You should be excited. The Motorola E32. There's been some leaks of what it's going to look like, and it's got a 6.6-inch flat screen display with an unknown resolution at this stage. And it's got a USB Type-C port. That's what they can really tell. But they've noted that it's got 4 cameras, 3 on the back, 1 on the front. Ted, are you excited about this at all? Can you add any more to it?
Not at all. I'm not excited about it at all. If you look at the predecessor, which was the E30, no one seems to know why they've skipped E31, but they have skipped E31. Maybe it's some religious thing in Outer Mongolia or something. And
of course,
the difference is that one of the differences is that the E30 was a real dumbed down device, which was even running the Go edition of Android, whereas this one is not. It's got the Unisoc chipset on it, the T606, which is the same one as is on the Nokia T20 tablet. But it's still pretty dumbed down. The cameras are a bit rubbish. The battery is quite good. I think it's 5,000 milliamp hour. They're suggesting side-mounted fingerprint scanner. But yeah, really nothing much to be excited about. The most exciting thing about this will be the price. And the E30 was going for about £100 or so, and this will be a cheap phone for, elderly relatives or kids or whatever. Still quite big, because it's a 6.6-inch screen. It's quite big. It's an LCD, 90 hertz refresh rate, mind you, but 720p, so which will be all right for me.
Ooh.
Well, no, I'd be all right with that, but people like you wouldn't.
Right, moving on. Look at that. I can't believe I put that in the show notes. Right, Sony Xperia leaks galore. What can we expect from the Sony Xperia 1.4?
The Sony Xperia 1.4. Right, this is an article which is completely and utterly rumour and leak. We often talk about rumours and leaks, but this is taking it to the next step of rumour and leak. Nobody knows anything about this. It's absolute speculation. But they're trying really hard to say what Sony are going to do with the next generation of the 1.3. They're even speculating about the fact that they're going to drop the whole Xperia tag, and maybe even the 1 series, 5 series and 10 series, and rename it to something else. They just don't know anything about it, so they're just speculating, a bit like the Microsoft phone we spoke about earlier. But someone is speculating that it's likely to be $1,600 to buy, but we know nothing about this. I think we should revisit this in about 3 months, to be honest, because these people should really not have. We shouldn't be reporting this, and they shouldn't have put it on their website, I don't think.
Oh, and you put it in the show notes.
Rubbish. It's your website. It's Notebook Check. You're a big fan of this.
I'm just saying, so far we've talked about so many companies dropping certain bits of their branding. Right at the very start, with Google dropping Fitbit, seems to be from the branding of their new watch. Samsung could be dropping the Z part. Motorola should be dropped. Now Sony could be dropping. Yeah,
they could. I'll tell you what would really work for me with the next Sony devices. You know what I'm going to say is that if the Xperia 5 Mark IV has Qi charging, and it stays the same size as the 5 Mark III and 2 and 1. It's a dinky, pocketable phone, but with Qi. It's the only thing to complain about with the 5, I think. Pretty much everything else is just almost perfect if they could just do the Qi charging. So that's what I'd be looking for.
All right, okay. Yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I still just can't get past that branding of Sony. the Sony Xperia 1 4. That doesn't work.
No.
The 1 is in alphanumeric and the 4 is in Roman numerals.
Yeah. Well, they used to put Mark 4. They used to put MK dot and then the Roman 4. But they've subsequently, with the 3, they've shrunk it down and they miss out the MK dot bit, which makes it look stupid. Come on, Sony.
Yeah. It does make it stupid. Imagine if they did that with Halloween, because there's been 3 films called Halloween, all based around Mike Myers. You've got the Jamie Lee Curtis one, the Rob Zombie one, and now the new one. If they had Halloween Mark 2 and Mark 3
Sony
to differentiate.
Yeah. Sony do this with their cameras as well. I just remember, because that large sensor Sony camera thingy. That goes through Mark 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What's it called? I can't remember now.
Oh yeah, the Mark one. Yeah,
yeah, and they do put the MK dot with that. They tend to. They even print it on the side of the camera. But
it's got an R in it too, doesn't it? R something.
Is it
RX?
That's the Leica, isn't it? Anyway, whatever it is, it's that large sensor compact thingy. Which
RX100.
RX100, yeah, that's it. Mark, I think they're up to Mark 8 or something, aren't they? 7, 8?
Yeah, 7.
Yeah.
It's the one they're selling now, yeah. RX100. Wow, I got something right. Flippin' heck. Okay, Xiaomi are talking about the Smart Screen 10, and I'm guessing this is 10 because it's a 10-inch. It's not Mark 10. They haven't made 9 more of these previously, have they? No, okay. It's got a built-in camera and microphone for observing you as you walk around the house and reporting back to who knows who. But yeah, it works essentially like the Echo Show device from Amazon or the Google Nest Hub. And it's got a 10.1-inch HD touchscreen. It's quite a nice looking device, to be honest. It's got a big speaker along the bottom. I don't know. I probably quite happily have that in my kitchen. What would you expect from this? Is there anything exciting? I see TikTok named here.
Yeah, TikTok. The thing I don't really understand, I've never had one of these smart home screen thingies from any of these manufacturers. I don't quite understand. Does it run Android? And can you add apps to it? It says, as you say, it comes with TikTok and the ability to run videos and
karaoke.
Yeah. Does that mean that you can install apps on it? Can you put YouTube on it, for example? I don't know much about these home hub thingies, but it does look really, really nice. It looks very Apple in design, sort of thing you'd expect Apple to come out with. And Xiaomi are just copying them, or copying what they would do if they were doing it, I think. And it looks just lovely. But I'd like to know more about it. It also says you can use Xiao AI voice commands, which I know nothing about. I suppose if I lived in the Xiaomi world, I'd know all these things. But it looks lovely, and if it can do enough, if it runs Android and it can do enough stuff, I'd be very interested in that, depending on how much it is. Oh, here's the price. It's 949 yuan. 146 US dollars.
Right, okay, so it's about 130 quid.
Oh, right, okay, well, that's pretty good, isn't it? Well, it depends what it does.
It is, yeah.
I'd want to see it running Android, and if it did...
If it does your TikTok stuff, then... the screen's the wrong aspect ratio for TikTok. You'd have to turn it on itself.
That's true, yeah. You're quite right. It's on it looks like a TV screen, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it would run vertically. Yeah. But yeah, if it was cheap enough and it runs Android and I can put apps on it, I think that would be a really compelling, interesting thing to get hold of, particularly with Xiaomi keeping their prices down. I was surprised when you told me it was that price. I was expecting it to be more. Nice.
Yeah. I'm trying to get through to the Xiaomi upin.com, but it's not actually loading here for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe my WireGuard doesn't like it.
Oh, right.
Something in it.
What's upin?
It's just the .com that's that the link goes through to. Maybe you might be able to get through to it, but
which link is it? Where it says Smart Home Screen 10.
That's the one.
Oh yeah. Let's see if it will load. Oh, it's Chinese gobbledygook at the top.
Right.
And it's not really gobbledygook. Oh no, I can have it translated to English, Google says, and I have it. 949 yen. So yes, I can see the site. What do you want to know?
Does it run Android?
Oh yeah, doesn't mention it. You see, the TikTok thing might be built into their operating system, and that to me is kind of knobbling it a bit.
Okay.
But no, there's no mention of Android unless it's written in Chinese and I can't understand it.
I've got an idea. If one of our listeners wants to go and buy one and let us know what exactly it is, tear it down, see what's going on with it, do so. And Ted will love you forever.
There's a picture of an Asian girl sitting, looking at the thing on a table, so you can see the scale of it on this website, and it does look really nice. It looks like a really nice size. It would be a good bedside thing or a kitchen thing, as you say. And I really fancy one of these now.
You should screenshot that and put it into the show notes so that we can all see it.
Righto then, I'll do that.
Because use your new screenshot tools that you're going to be telling us about later on.
Aha, yes indeed.
Yeah. How exciting. The Razer Leviathan V2 soundbar has been unveiled, and this is a good-looking soundbar for your computer that you stick in under your monitor, and you can do some gaming. It's got built-in 2 full-range drivers, 2 passive radiators, 2 tweeters, and a down-firing subwoofer. So it should achieve crisp, clear treble and deep punchy bass to elevate any entertainment experience. Looks really nice, this, especially with the RGB type stuff going on with it. I'd like one of those sitting on my desktop, but it seems very deep as well. It's not the longest in the world. It's maybe about, it's just difficult to say based off the monitor it's sitting under, but it looks to be about 3 inches deep, which is quite large. So it might occupy quite a bit of space on your desk. Ted, I take it you're excited about these.
Sorry, I was just trying to do a screenshot. The the Razer Leviathan, yes, anything to do with audio and sound is great. And if it's Razer badge, then it will be, no doubt, lots of pretty lights and what's it called? Chroma. Yes. And it will be all over the place with lighting and silly effects. But you can rely on, I think, the sound being superb. I'm still using my speakers here, my Razer speakers, booming out bass, which I can't really get the use of here for the fear of being arrested. But yeah, it looks great, doesn't it? As usual with Razer stuff, I'm sure it is fantastic. 250 quid though. It's a bit steep, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I suppose, but I bought for the bedroom. I bought a soundbar, a Sony one, and I think it was on a deal, and it was down to £99, and I put it in above the TV because I particularly wanted one without a subwoofer or a built-in subwoofer, and I have to say the sound that comes off it is fantastic.
Right.
If you were to extrapolate that to £250 worth of soundbar, I'm sure the sound is going to blow you away, blow your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll have one.
yes, me too.
We'll add it to the list. Of all the stuff we're talking about on the show today, we'll have one of each.
All right. Nightcore has released a battery pack that has an interesting feature installed in it, and something that, oh goodness, wouldn't we just love this on all our batteries? It's got a USB Type-C charging port built into it, so you don't need a charger.
Yay.
You could just pull out the battery and plug directly into a cable. That sounds amazing. We need that. We need it now.
On the other hand,
okay,
this is designed largely for Sony cameras, which is quite limiting, I suppose. I don't know if any other companies are going to adopt it or the idea, but this is a Sony unit, right? Uh-huh. And over the years of using digital cameras, the first thing that was a real breakthrough, for me anyway, was the fact that you didn't have to take the bloomin' battery out of the camera to charge it. There's a port in the camera. You could just plug the camera into your USB socket, whatever it was, plug, and it would charge it while it was still in the camera. This is clearly designed for people that have got 12 batteries and they're out on a shoot and they're probably professionals, and they can just charge the next one that is lined up to put in there. So fair enough. But I think for the average user, this is not such a big deal as at first I thought it might be, because I think plugging in the camera in is much more interesting. But there you go, that's me.
But then it's relatively simple, as we were talking about GameSir and how they have a pass-through. They can put a pass-through in all new cameras coming out that use this type of battery. This is the first step into a bigger, wider world where the charger can be contained within the battery.
In which case they'll need to put the USB-C socket on the bottom of the battery, not on the side.
Yes. But it's baby steps at the moment.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Good idea, though. Yeah, really good thinking. Well done, Night Core.
Yes, very excited about this, and I look forward to the day that I don't have to take the camera out of, or the battery out of my camera ever again. I know, Ted, you're going to go, AA batteries are the way forward, but no, this isn't whatever works. Go take that crap over there.
Sorry, that's me told.
And the last one here is, Ted, the idea that Google is researching hidden displays and interfaces for their ambient computing, so being able to use say, for example, Google Nest, and it's actually built into the wall and you can just touch an area of the wall. Is that something we're going to see? Because we talked about the little things, little notification type stuff last week.
Oh, yeah.
About small knocks and things like that, tiny little movements and puffs of air and things like that to notify you that things are changing. Is Google looking to subtly integrate themselves into your house rather than having a big Max-style speaker observing you from the top of your bookshelf?
Well, it's funny you should mention that, because I thought they'd already done this. And if you have a Max-style speaker,
which I do,
you'll see that this is already the ambient lettering. When it's turned off, it's just a piece of cloth, isn't it? And when it's turned on and you want to see the time or whatever it is you're seeing, the display is behind a surface which is normally not looking like a display, isn't it?
True.
So,
but then you can't interact with it, really. You can't.
Well, I thought you could.
I suppose the minis, you can. You can run your finger across the top of those.
So I think what is going on here is that they're taking this this technology that they've already been using to some degree behind these cloth things so far, and trying to stick it into a AMOLED screen or an LCD screen. But the trouble is that, according to this article, that the AMOLED screen is too expensive and complex to actually do it in terms of manufacturing, and the LCD stuff is not sufficiently bright. So this is the story. They have bought into this new passive matrix OLED, which they're dubbing the PM OLED. And this will be benefiting from and I quote, simple design that significantly reduces cost and complexity. However, it first reduced flicker and increased brightness by switching to parallel rendering instead of the scanline rendering. So it's all very technical, but essentially they and their partners look like they've come up with an idea to make all this happen, not just behind cloth like in your speaker, but also in flat screens, as you say, buried into walls, into fridges, into people's heads, and everywhere.
Yes. Skin would be one of the most interesting fabrics or textures or textiles to use here. Right, okay. It's a small thing, but I think it's an important step. And we could see that becoming more prevalent in people's homes.
It's a very complicated set of diagrams in this article as well about how all this new OLED thing works. We'll leave you to look at that, dear listener.
And if you know what they're banging on about, let us know. All right, Flap, you're chatting about an app. Flipping heck, we're an hour and 10 minutes in and only getting here. All right, the first one is that the Play Store has a new third-party call recording function policy, where you can't have an app that records people's calls. Well, because of legalities, I'm guessing, because you have to announce to the person that you're recording their call before you can use it as admissible evidence or make a claim against
it. Can't be that, because if you look at the very end of this article, it says, except pixels. So they're stopping anyone using this except Pixels and other developers if they baked it into Android at manufacturing stage. So what they're stopping here by using this API is the API that people have got round so far by using the accessibility options in Android to record calls. This has always been a problem. It's always been something that they fought with in terms of security for people and looking after the customers, but now they're saying that's it, we're switching off that API in accessibility because we know that's how you people, you cads, are getting around our rules. So here's a new rule.
But then Google have this built into Pixels. You can use the you can transcribe the call, but it tells the person at the other end of the phone that you've enabled that feature to transcribe it or to record the call,
as they do with these other ones that are built in.
So that's not an issue for the Pixel anymore because the Pixel already does that.
Yeah. It's these people that have got round the rules by using accessibility. That's the problem. Yeah. They've said that your third-party people can't do this because they're not doing it right and legally and properly. And we're going to put this thing in place so you people can no longer do this. And if you want to do it, then you've got to do it via the manufacturer.
Yes, and if you were to take them to court about it, or take someone to court about a phone call, you can't just surprise someone and say, well, I have a recording of that phone call. They have to know that it's been recorded in the first place for it to be a legal matter, to be or to be submitted as evidence. They need to have known of the phone call. And that's why you hear it.
You say that, but courts in the UK don't adhere to that. And I know that from personal...
I believe they do.
I know that from personal experience, because I was recorded once on a phone call and I didn't know. And
they knew it was your breath going to that poor girl?
Yes. After I got out of jail, anyway, the point is that the recording was considered by, in this case, the employment tribunal people, that it would stand up in court because the judge or whoever it was considered it relevant to the case and it was okay to hear it. So it's okay to say that these things are not allowed, but actually when it comes to it, if it's critical enough, they will allow it. Anyway, we digress.
Okay, all right, we won't go any deeper because it sounds deeply sus.
Yeah.
And Ted shouting, "You can't handle the truth" across a courtroom is not something we want to bring in here. All right, Facebook has started to realize that nobody gives a crap about their platform whenever it comes to podcasts.
What's wrong with podcasts? I thought podcasts was really taking off. It was the big thing. Everyone was doing it, and it was going to be the thing of the century. And then suddenly, last week we had Plex bailing out on it. This week we got Facebook and associated companies in Meta bailing out of it, and podcasts, it seems, has had its day now. I'm amazed.
Well, because there's one repository for podcasts that just can't be equaled.
Apple.
And that's Apple, yeah. The majority of people get their podcasts from Apple, and you can't do anything about that. Apple charge people now for statistics off there, which is big business to them. So, you know, what's Facebook or Plex going to be able to offer people to say, bring us your podcast? But podcasting is a rare entity in that it's the one thing that isn't centralized out there. You know, no matter what you look at, It's been centralized. Podcasting hasn't been yet, thankfully. It could be going that way. Apple could possibly do something about that to centralize podcasting, but right now it's still a bit of a wild west, and people quite like it. It allows me to be able to give you this podcast for free, and no matter what we say, we can still carry on, and we're not worried about who's telling us what we need to how we need to conduct ourselves in your ear holes right now.
Big jobs. Which,
by the way, you do. Sorry?
Big jobs. We can say what we like.
News. Well, the people do need to clean their ears out. See in there's a bit of gunk and things like that. But yes, we the likes of Facebook are. Well, we're trying to find a way to be able to revenualize podcasts, and that's what they do. They're not going to go and set up tools so that people can quite easily bring their podcasts over there and for free for Facebook to be able to monetize. So that didn't work. I wouldn't trust Facebook with any of my information. Plex, I knew they did it. I didn't really care. I put my podcast where it goes, and the aggregator that it goes into shoves it out onto various platforms, and I'm happy with where it goes. It turns up in the weirdest places. I do remember a couple of years ago there was a subscription service that was trying to offer this podcast to their listeners, and I was really annoyed about that, and I sent them a letter to say that they weren't allowed to do that, and nothing ever happened of it, but thankfully that service went away quite quickly. There's so many people, because there's a lot of content, there's a lot of way of advertising and things like that, and it's one of those few things that exists now that can be fully free, and it's amazing, and anything can go on it. No matter where you look, WhatsApp still has money being made from you being able to send free messages to someone. Everything has some sort of dollar sign attached to pushing it out there, but podcasts, no, not yet. And long may it continue.
This is what Anchor were trying to do, wasn't it? Force people to put 30-second adverts in their podcast to make money from it. I don't know how they're doing with that.
No, I hope because they lost my entire back catalogue, and I wouldn't work with them because they insisted on doing that. I hate them. They're one of the worst companies out there. Yeah. And as a result, we only have, about 100 podcasts available on Tech Addicts, whenever there's countless other ones that they managed to integrate, and then they buggered up. Anyway, yes. Yeah, so sucks to Facebook. That's fine.
Yeah, I get your meaning. Yep. Okay.
All right, Ted, you've stuck in an article from Nintendo Life about limited run games.
Yeah, I thought that you would know all about this, as I do whenever I put anything about games into MeWe or onto the show notes. And I thought, Gareth will know about this, I'll let him run with it, like a limited run. But it looks like this is a rebadging exercise. It looks like there's a company out there called Limited Run who have taken some old games, and they've said, right, because the likes of Nintendo are going online only and download only, we think that people still want physical carts, and so we're going to presumably pay some royalties to these various people and produce our own with a limited run badge on the boxing and the packaging, in the same way as I think happens with DVDs with things like think of an example where there's an overriding company, like something or other classics, and they have a catalogue of stuff that they've repackaged and presumably paid some licensing to then rebundle and call it under their banner. Electronic Eye is one, isn't it? That do a lot of European cinema, for example. Is that what this is about?
Sort of, yes. Companies can also approach them too and say, we would like to put out a limited run, because obviously if back in the days of the 80s and 90s and noughties, whenever manufacturers were having to put out games, because they were going out non-digitally, and you had to go into a gaming store, you had to have the box art and you had to have the most striking things. That's not necessary anymore. In this digital world where a game hits Steam and they pay for advertising through Google or whatever, through AdWords, to get people to know about it and start throwing it on the social media. So it's an entirely different way of marketing games. But people still miss the idea of being able to have a physical thing that they can put on a shelf and sit back and proudly look at. The article does go into how the Nintendo are closing down their 3DS and Wii U eShops, which means that some games will disappear forever. Yeah. And we've already seen this happen with Sony's game store that had a bunch of little games that they were trying to promote as across Android and on the PSP. And there was about 300 games that have disappeared there, never to be seen again, unless the developer somehow manages to do something with them. But this is a way that people can actually go and buy the game and have something sitting on their shelves to remember the game by. And Limited Run are quite invested in the artistic side of things and manufacturing good-looking, colourful products that a game distribution organisation, or not distribution, a game publisher can use for distribution purposes. And looking through their catalogue, whilst they don't have a huge range and everything is, as they say, a limited run, once they are sold out, they're gone. It still gives the publisher a possibility of having a game sell for a good amount of time. Admittedly, they are very expensive, and once they're gone, you've missed out if you find about it quite late. But checking in there every now and again, you can find maybe something that is currently available that you actually quite like. Going in and having a look today, I don't recognise most of the products. But when I first found out about limited run games years ago, I got really excited about the idea, because you could go and get yourself. There's Contra, the Contra collection that was released on the PS4 through their store, but they've done a boxed version of it with a really nice box that fits in with the other Contra games that you may have on the Nintendo or have collected over the years, so that collectors can have a proper version of it to put on the shelf. So you have to keep your ear to the ground that limited run games are going to be doing a new version of that game. Star Wars Force Unleashed. Obviously, people are out there collecting everything Star Wars. They can now have, there's 3 options for the Switch version of Force Unleashed, with big box, medium-sized box, and the small plastic clamshell case. And you can pay through the nose for it. It's $175 for the top-end Master Edition, which has bundled extras in it. It's a really cool idea. There have been some in the past that I've thought, oh, I would like that. But, it's either been sold out at the time, or it's just been a bit too rich to justify. Whereas whenever it comes to boxed games and things, the ones that I have, I remember picking up out of shops that were going out of business or something like that, or maybe off Amazon or eBay back in the day, where I could get that game. I've got Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, the boxed version of it, because it was £3 or something at the time. Now it's sitting with pride joy on my shelf because it's worth a great deal more. All of these should be worth a great deal more, and every now and again on eBay you'll see something that was limited run turn up and it'll be worth a good bit more than it was originally when it was sold. So it's an interesting idea, and I wish them every success, because I want more of the modern games to come out with a proper physical release, because I'm all about physical releases.
And you thought you could hand that one on to me?
Yeah.
10 minutes later, after your speech.
Sorry, I have to try and establish what. It is a bit long-winded, because I have to make sure that people know exactly what they are, because I don't want to assume that anyone has any idea what it is, or the fact that physical media is an issue these days.
Well,
Yeah, and I think they even take they took physical media away from you as well. My son has Minecraft on the PlayStation 4, and the disc doesn't work anymore because we transferred it onto the PlayStation 5 digital edition. So we now have a placeholder for Minecraft sitting on his shelf for a game that he can't actually play.
that's a bit rubbish.
Which, I suppose you think about it, we swapped it for a bigger, better version, but that PlayStation 4 version of it now won't install on a PlayStation 4 anywhere.
Right.
Which is strange. You know, it's understandable because we have it elsewhere, and it was good of Sony to be able to upgrade it essentially, but upgrade it for how long?
Can you not run it on anything else? Can't you load it on a PC or anything?
No, because it's a PlayStation
It's just
game.
a PlayStation, that's it, right.
Yeah, we'd have to have a disconnected PlayStation 4 to run the original version. We can't sort of get the upgrades or things like that were put out, or bug fixes and things.
And they probably won't let you start it unless you go online, will they?
Yeah. Oh no. Well, I think you can start it if you're
Okay.
in offline mode,
Okay.
but it'll be the original
Yeah,
version of it
yeah.
that was released on that disc, which could have bugs and warts and all sorts of problems.
Okay.
So digital versions do have their benefits.
Yeah.
And that you don't have to get out of your chair to swap the disc, which is the biggest benefit I find.
Yeah. Yes. Right, there you go then. Limited run.
Cool. Yeah, good stuff. Next up is, Ted, you can definitely handle this one. Apple is going to launch a nudity detector internationally. So I take it everything on your phone is going to be deleted then.
I haven't got an iPhone. Well, I have, but for testing purposes. But,
Not anymore.
but-
Got rid of it.
yeah, they're going to be, apparently, Apple are going to be scanning United Kingdom communications to see if when parents opt into the option, so it's not by default, it's you've got to and the parent's got to enable it. It performs scan in iMessages, so it only works in iMessages apparently, and it filters out potentially nude images so that the kids can't see them. I'm not quite sure how big a news this is really, because as this article says, that if they keep nagging the kids, it depends on how good it is, because if it takes out any skin tones, anything at all that could be even slightly suggested that it might be a nudity, but actually it's someone's face or someone's arm, then they're going to get so fed up with it they'll just all turn it off, and I can see that happening. But anyway, this is already happening in America apparently, but they're rolling it out to other countries. Apple are, and so we'll see if it goes anywhere. I suppose if people are doing it or trying it, then turning it off.
Yeah. Well, they said it's to keep kids safe, and you're wondering if maybe that's keeping kids safe from, hacks or whatever, or revenge porn and that kind of thing, where maybe they're going to put pictures of their friends up to embarrass them. But there's also, kids can swap around naughty pictures that they happen to have on their phone from the internet. The pictures of Samantha Fox back in the day, if you think about it. You could transfer that, and you could titter about it at the back of the class or whatever. It's a strange. It doesn't go into too much detail, this article, as to what it's actually going to do. It's just a wee bit scary what it's saying.
Well, it depends, I think, on how the algorithms work. That's what it boils down to. And and according to this article, it's already happening in America anyway. So if it was a real big problem, I suppose they would have been shouting about it. But then it might be that in America they've all turned it off anyway, because it's an opt-in option. And if it's crap and the algorithms don't work and they're a bit rubbish, then that's what everyone will be doing. So perhaps this is another unnewsworthy item.
So parents would get a notification that their child has received a message that contains possible nudity.
Yeah.
And it'll be blurred out, and the parent has to go and have a look and see whether or not it's safe.
The children will also get the warning. And so the child goes to the parent and says, "Look, Apple have blocked this picture. It's only of Samantha Fox." And so the parent says, "Oh right, okay, we'll let that through then." And then
Can I have a copy too?
And then every 5 minutes, the same thing happens. As I say, it depends on how good it is, doesn't it? If it genuinely does cut out pornographic stuff that, underage minor people are not supposed to see, then fair enough. But I can't imagine it's that good. But I don't know.
Yeah. We need Grange Hill to come back and to help with these sorts of things so that we can see how these things work.
Yeah.
All right. Chrome OS news. What's happening in Chrome, and should we get excited by screenshots?
Nothing's particularly exciting with Chrome OS, I'm afraid. As we say every week, it's little bits and pieces and stuff that, like, for example, the first bit is about the Chrome Web Store, which very few people use unless you're really into Chromebooks. And you go into the Web Store and get all sorts of extensions and stuff. Then there was an article that came out, a news item a few months ago that said, be careful with Chrome extensions because some of them are not any good. Some of them are littered with malware that you don't trust them, blah, blah, blah. So Google have grabbed hold of this issue, and they've decided to start a couple of badge thingies in the web store, the Chrome Web Store. One of them is featured, which are ones that have been looked at by the Google team and say, yes, we think this is a good one. It reaches a quality mark. And there's also another one which says that there's another badge coming which says this has been tested by all and sundry at Google. Even the toilet cleaners tested this, and it's actually fine, and it's safe to download. So that's good. So if you've got these controls, like you have in the Android Play Store now, where you get this kind of badge of authentication and the Play Store safe, you're going to get that in the Web Store now. So for those people who are using Web Store apps and extensions and stuff like that on their Chromebook, there's another level of safety coming. That was the first one.
Oh. Good news. Good news.
And the second one was there was this Chrome OS screenshot trick, which it's not actually new, but it's just something that Robbie at Chrome Unboxed realised, and I must admit I hadn't realised it afterwards. I've been doing this the long way around. So you take a screenshot by pressing Shift, Control, and Overview, or the F5 key as it is on most keyboards, and then I've been doing exactly the same as him, saving it to the downloads, which is where it goes to, then going to your application you're using or where you want to put it into, and then going to downloads and inserting it from downloads. But no, he's discovered, clever chap, that you can use the Windows-wide Control-V command or Search-V command to just paste it in. So it saves it into the clipboard, and you save that whole step of fart-arsing about with the stupid, the downloads area and reinserting it into what you're working with. So well done, Robbie. Well spotted. It's a good shortcut.
It is, yeah. I do think that we should have the clipboard as a more obvious app. So
like
you can open up your clipboard and see the things that you have copied and pasted before.
Yeah,
and maybe it keeps the last 20 things, so you can go back in and get that. So you can have multiple cuts and pastes and stuff whenever you're doing this.
The Windows one works quite well, although I've just pressed it now, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. There's quite a lot in there. There's about 20... just over 20 in there. Going back...
How do you bring up the Windows one again?
You press Windows V. But you've got to turn it on. It won't work unless you turn it on. It's got to start working. And yours will probably be empty if you've not done that. But if you go to the Windows settings and search on clipboard, it will let you throw the toggle and turn it on, and then it will start doing it. And I do use that all the time. So if that was available in a more obvious way in Chrome OS, then yes, I think you're right. I think more people would use it.
Yeah, I'm going to start using that more often. I hadn't turned it on, but I did know that it was there. We talked about it once before, I think, when they introduced it.
Right.
Maybe it wasn't available on the build I had of Windows at the time, but yeah, that's handy.
It's really
that.
good.
Hopefully Chrome does the same thing.
I use it all the time. When I'm doing invoicing for the the magazine I'm the editor for, that is just constantly in use, and it's really, really quick and easy to use. It's great.
Swish, swish. All right, moving into Hark Back. And I can't believe I haven't done this one before, because I just realised that I hadn't touched on this. But it's a particular type of thing. I know we've touched on PDAs in the past, but I was trying to remember the one that I had that I paid a pretty sum for back in the day. I think I must have been about 20 years old when I bought it, because it was a significant purchase, and I thought it was going to revolutionise my life, and it didn't. The HP iPac 5550 Pocket PC. Now, this came out in the summer of 2003. So I'd finished working on board various cruise ships, and I'd come back, and I think I'd started working with Ordnance Survey at the time, and I was out and about, and this gave me a good level of hardware to take with me, and Microsoft kind of, Office on the go, which is what I was really looking for, but it wasn't able to integrate in with the Office computers because they were all sort of locked down, and it was more for personal use than anything. I had hoped Maps would arrive on it, and I think I remember buying Navtech software or something that came with an SD card that I had to put in and take out the SD card that I had in there, which was really annoying to be able to use it. But yeah, it was a PDA that had a bunch of features that you would expect to get from a PDA or from a mobile phone these days. It had a fingerprint sensor, which is a big thing. There was a wee D-pad at the bottom that was crap for gaming, but it was useful for the interface. It had a couple of dedicated buttons around the side for calendar and mail and that sort of thing. It had a swappable battery, so you didn't have to worry about your battery running out on the day. You could buy another one and take it with you as well. It had an antenna that allowed you to have a bit of Wi-Fi if needed, which was really bad. I think it was wireless B at the time, so it was slow and buggy, and I don't think it actually worked with the Wi-Fi that I had in the house. And in order to get it online, I had to hook it in through my computer and download the stuff via a cable and a syncing stand with Microsoft HotSync. Ugh, if you remember that. There was Bluetooth in there as well that allowed you to connect to certain things, not very many things, because it wasn't sort of as open as it was nowadays. And it had a cool little belt hook as well that you could put it in. I think it came in the box, because I don't remember buying it separately. I think it must have come with it. It was a case that you could stick onto your belt and then put this whole thing inside it, and it held it fairly securely, and it was quite easy to whip out whenever you needed to. There was no keyboard with it. It was an on-screen keyboard, and you had to use the built-in stylus to be able to tap away to get all your information onto the device. And at the very bottom there was a large port to plug it in to something, and I can't remember what it was. You didn't use that on the, or maybe it did use that on the stand, but it was the same kind of size as a PCMCIA card port, but I don't think it took PCMCIA cards down there. But I was always intrigued as to what else you could plug in there, other than the dock, if the dock used it. I don't quite remember the dock using it, mind you. Yeah, but there was a whole rake of these iPacs, and I think the 5550, or there might have been a 5555, was pretty much the top end at a time, and the Pocket PC Windows Mobile operating system was good, if buggy and slow. It still worked quite well, and I do have some happy memories of this, but I didn't keep it for too long. I ended up getting rid of it eventually because it wasn't terribly useful. The games were crap, and the satellite navigation came better with a dedicated GPS, so it didn't really fit terribly well with a lot of things, and it was a bit of a pain to get online and use and sync wirelessly. You had to wait until you were home and then plug it into the computer, which kind of defeated the purpose of having a portable computer anyway. and that you couldn't pair it with your mobile phone to get the modem to work that way, or at least I couldn't with whatever phone I was using at the time. And I think WAP was a little bit better on the phone than using this instead. But Ted, I'm guessing you probably had some sort of pocket PC over the years. Was it one of these?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it was the predecessor to these as well. I can remember very clearly around this time. Where are we putting this? 2002.
2003 this came out.
So I remember being completely wowed. You see, at the time I was fighting with Symbian, or was it Epoch? Anyway, whatever it was that Scion were doing, and then Nokia were doing with phones. And I can remember fighting with this thing to synchronize with Cywin onto my computer. And it was just rubbish. Outlook was rubbish. It just didn't work properly. I kept getting data doubled up and copied back wrong and blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly... what was it called? Windows Mobile 2003 arrived. That was it. And then on these pocket PCs, it just synced and it worked. And I thought, this is fantastic. No more farting about with Cywin and fighting with Nokia devices and Scion devices to make this work. This is just working. And all my stuff that I had in Outlook on my Windows computer just went across. And it was magical to see it all appearing on my pocket computer. But you're quite right, because by this time we'd entered into the era of mobile phones. We were all getting mobile phones, and we wanted all our stuff to be connected by then and mobile, and this wasn't connected. And it was like doing half the job. It was great to have it working. And when this really changed for me was when they turned into phones, when they became like the Jam. I remember particularly the Jam for some reason. And the JAM, and that was basically a Windows PC, pocket PC, with a phone in it. And then suddenly it all came to life. And at that point I abandoned Cywin, and I abandoned Scion, and I abandoned Epoch, and I abandoned everything, and was just completely in bed with Microsoft until Nokia started moving forward with Symbian, and I swapped back. But this was great. I loved it, and I loved the way that it talked to my Windows computer so beautifully. It just wasn't connected, and that's what bugged me the whole time. The only thing. What's interesting looking at the pictures of it is that I'd forgotten that some of these devices had the removable battery actually on the outside. I'd completely forgotten that.
Yeah.
It's not like if you have a phone now that's got a battery, or any device that's got a battery's inside. It's under a cover or something. But oh no, you just flick the connector thingy, and out it pops. Put a new one in. That's really funny. But yeah. I loved my PDAs, and I thought they were great fun. And I then went on to also I tried the Jornada. You remember the Jornada? You get the big QWERTY keyboard across the Windows mobile experience as well. Loved it. This was a good era for me. I loved all this stuff.
Yeah, I was just diving through some of the software catalogue to see. I think I remember the Palm PDAs I had better, because I remember buying Butler for that, because that was one of the greatest life tools that you could have on a PDA. But I discovered Hyperspace Delivery Boy. I remember buying that and thinking it was almost it was better than a Game Boy game. And whilst the PSP I don't think had released at the time, the Nintendos were still on the up. This was something else. It was really showing off the gaming hardware that you had in your hand. Because it was a really good quality game.
Uh-huh.
And it was one of the only ones that I ever bought on the platform. I think it was quite expensive as well whenever it first came out. And you bought it online and downloaded it and synced it over to the device, and it took up something of a large portion of the 32 megabytes or whatever it was that you had in the memory storage. I can't even remember. 64 megabytes high end, or the 5550 had 128 megabytes of RAM. But whenever you downloaded this game, it was something like 50 megabytes. So
right.
you could only use it from time to time. And then you got specialized bits of software that would run on it as well, depending on who you worked for and things at the time. You maybe synchronize your contact books and things like that way. But no, it never worked. HotSync was Palm.
Yeah,
I'm just realizing.
I was
ActiveSync was Windows.
That's right. I did when you said that. I thought, no, that's not right, but I couldn't think what it was. Palm, I never got into though. Steve Litchfield did the whole Palm thing, and it passed me by completely. The battery.
Oh, sorry, that was a while ago as well. I'm sure Steve's sitting there going, "No, it was HotSync."
the battery was interesting as well. I've just read further down about the battery. 1250 milliamp hour battery, which you would think with no connectivity stuff going on, turn the Wi-Fi off and it'll be all right. But actually, and I do remember this. You get if you turn the screen on and use it, you get 3 hours of use per charge. And I think, good grief, that's so little. But I do remember back. That watching the battery going away really, really quickly. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Oh, it was a lovely device. It was really well made as well. But I suppose you were at the time paying about £400 for it, which was a lot of money back then. Yeah. Especially for just a portable computer, and it didn't do too much. If you could put that into money now, it would be probably about £1,000, and you get an awful lot more for your money because you've got everything going on a £1,000 mobile phone. But I was underwhelmed by it. And I think I got rid of it fairly quickly, and I moved maybe back to Palm. I think I bought a Palm Trio around about then, or the Eaton Glowfish. I remember that came out about then. And it was plus a phone built into it. Yeah. So it ran on the Windows Mobile platform, or Pocket PC, or Windows CE, or whatever was on them.
I was just wowed by the PIM, all the stuff that just talked to Outlook. I was just amazed. And then that lasted to some degree until, as I say, I went across to Symbian. But then when Android came out, suddenly Google services just worked perfectly, even better than Windows Mobile 2003. And I thought, yes, Android is here. And I look back at these Windows Mobile and think, no, not for me. I've got Android now.
Yeah. And you wouldn't see sync errors. You get 35 sync errors.
Yeah,
what?
Yeah, that's right.
2 different mobile phone numbers. What do I do? I have to ring and find out which one's right. Where did this other one come from? That was probably a keying error whenever you're using the tiny keyboard.
Yeah, that stylus was really interesting, wasn't it? It was tiny. It must have been about 2.5 inches long, and it went into a silo, or in the one I had, it did anyway. Mm-hmm, and you had to just peck this thing onto the tiny little keyboard. And the screen resolution, even for me, TED 720p TED, the screen, you could see all the pixels on it.
Yeah, what was the screen on the 5550 though?
It must have been pretty low, like 240 by 320 or something.
Even going into a review here of it just to see, so the screen sound 3.8 inch screen, 65,000 colours. It doesn't say the resolution though. It says it's 75% brighter than the Dell Axim X5.
Oh, yeah, the Dell ones. I had the Dell ones too. I must have wasted loads of money on these things. Because I remember those are Dell ones. I loved the Dell ones. But yeah, I think I seem to remember 320 by 240. I could be wrong.
That probably was about that, but it would have been a very standard screen about then. Yeah, and clocking up the brightness is what you did.
Very nice.
Yeah, they were fun devices. Yeah. I had a quick check on eBay earlier this morning and saw you could pick one up for anywhere between £20 and £40, but without all the luxuriant extras that you usually got, or at least had with them. And maybe that case didn't come with it. Maybe I did buy that separately.
You won't be able to do anything with it now, though, because there's no way it would sync with Outlook or anything. So what are you going to use it for? Just to look at on a shelf?
Well, yeah, just let the battery expand and then eventually burst.
Yes.
All right, moving into the bargain basement. If you happen to be a person in the United States of America and you subscribe to the Google One thing, the premium end, the 2 terabyte one, or the 2 terabyte and above one, then you can get yourself a free Titan 2-factor authentication key, which is pretty useful and handy, I have to say. You can just plug it into your computer at home and you touch it and your computer unlocks. They're nice. And you can filter them into password managers and things like that as well, so that they kind of just secure you just that wee bit more, that you're actually there and you're not some sort of imposter coming in from a foreign country and reading bank accounts or anything like that. Do you have any of these?
I had one. I bought one, and I ended up. I couldn't understand how it worked. I really tried to. I don't think I'm particularly thick as a person, but I read all about it and what you're supposed to do and blah blah, and I couldn't work it out. I didn't. In the end, I just sold it.
Okay. I have 2. I've got 2 YubiKeys, but I did use them once, and I locked down my Google account with it, and then I decided I don't really like this because I have to buy more of these YubiKeys in order to use it in various different places.
Yeah.
and removing it from your account is a real pain.
Right. Maybe that's why I gave up.
Changing your Google... Yeah, probably, yeah. Changing your Google password is hard enough, especially if you've got it integrated into various different places, and I did mine recently, and I hated having to do it, especially on Google TV. That just doesn't bloody work. And then you have to enter in your old password once you've entered in your new password to prove that you are you, and you're like, I've deleted my old password. What?
I do remember, honestly, I do remember trying really hard and farting about with this thing for ages and trying to understand it, and I just gave up in the end. This is just too complicated, and I don't think I need it anyway. I've never come unstuck with any of this stuff. Well, I suppose that's what everyone says before they come unstuck, but 2FA works for me and the way it works, so I don't think I need a physical key. But there's no point in turning it down if you get a free one.
No, absolutely not. And it just goes to show, I think we pay slightly more for Google One over here, and we get nothing of these deals. So if you're in the United States, get it. Do. Yeah. Even if you're not going to use it, stick it in your drawer and just feel that you've got something for your money. Yeah. All right. It's actually me, for this first deal. It's what I bought my son about this time last year. No, I bought it for his birthday. The Razer Kraken headsets. I paid about £45 for it. It says the recommended retail price is £80, but it's currently today, right now, it's £35, which is amazing. These are a really comfortable set of gaming headphones, but they've got a really good quality microphone built into them as well. And they've got tuned 50mm drivers. It's a unidirectional microphone, and there's a really long braided 3.5mm cable with inline controls as well. It's an excellent headset that covers everything. And my son and I would we would do a wee bit of gaming. I try not to do it very often, but we'll maybe go on and play Terraria or something like that, where I'm on my computer and he's on his computer, and he sounds crystal clear over this microphone. It's a really good headset, this, and I thoroughly recommend it if you're... He takes it off and he danders down to the PlayStation 5 and he plugs it in, not the PlayStation 5 anymore, because that tend to works through the handset quite well. The PlayStation 4 used to plug in with this, and it sounded really good, and just plug it in and away you went, microphone and headphones. So it was a good purchase. I was really pleased with it, and with it sitting down at £35 now, I think that's a real bargain if anyone needs a gaming headset.
Very nice indeed. Right, I've got the thing that I don't particularly want, but I'm sure lots of people out there will, because you've got to stuff it into your ear canals. And this changes price every 6 hours. I can't believe it. This is the Sony WF-1000XM4 in-ear canal infection-giving Sony earplugs. Which apparently are really stunningly good. Anyway, they're supposed to be 250 quid. Nothing
sells a product better than the word infection.
Yeah. They're supposed to be 250 quid. They're now, this minute, they're £202.22. But like I say, it changes every 5 minutes. Yesterday, they were 194 quid. So they've gone up 6 or 8 quid since then. So keep an eye on that one, because it dances around like a dancing thing.
It does. I'm just looking at it right now on Keepa, and it's been up and down and up and down. It was 235 back on April 12th, but before that, it was pretty steady at 199. So it's a wee bit more expensive than its usual at 202, but it's not the 219 that it was last week or earlier today.
235 quid it was on April the 12th. 235 quid.
Yeah.
Anyway, the real price is 250, so it still looks quite a. But the point is though that people that have got these have said that they're really good, much like the overhead 1000 XMs that we refer to.
Yeah, no, they're good looking. I like those. Yeah, even though they have an infection. Well, Ted, I'm going to do it. I've got one here that's got 5 monthly payments available, which is incredible. I thought, maybe they'd taken out of Northern Ireland entirely, or maybe it was just me. Maybe my credit is disgustingly bad, which it's not.
It's weird, isn't it? They've completely disappeared from me, apart from with Kindles. And it used to.
So do you see it on this?
No, it used to be the other way around. Every week I was saying to you, "Do you not see this?" and you couldn't see it. Now it's the other way around. You're seeing it all, and I'm not. It's really odd.
How weird. Amazon is just a peculiar one. Anyway, this is the Lenovo G32QC 10. There's a link to it on my Twitter page. If you are on Twitter, you can find it there as well, if you're really interested in this. But it's a 144 hertz QHD curved display, and it's 32 inches in size. And I kid you not, it was £350, but now it's down to £250. And if, like me, you're Amazon's best mate today, then you can get it for 5 monthly payments. It feels weird talking about this. It's been so many years. For £49.80 a month for 5 months, which is terrific. What a really good deal, that I have to say. Looking down at some of the comments on it, they do say that it's not the best for fast-paced gaming. The refresh rate isn't great, but it should have Active Sync and G-Sync in there as well. So I'd like to think that it's going to do well. One person said that it's nothing special, but it's a 2K screen. It's 32 inches in size and it's curved. I think that's pretty special.
Lovely, yeah.
I'd love one of these.
Really big. That would fill up my desk beautifully. 250 quid.
250 quid.
But I still can't understand this whole Amazon thing. It's really, really odd. They're offering me the Barclays 12-month thingy, but then they offer it to everyone. Well. So really very odd. They're obviously Northern Ireland's in favour at the moment. USB-C 12-in-1 docking station. I was looking for one of these recently to try and hook up my laptop, and I've stumbled into this one, which looked like, it's a no-name brand, so buyer beware, but it looks like it's an awful lot of stuff for not so much money. 10% off voucher on top of the already reduced price brings it right down to, what is it? I said £33.65, and it's got 12-in-1 USB-C hub pass-through with 87-watt charging pass-through as well, so it's not like it's a slouchy one. Got 3 USB 3.0 ports, USB-A's. There's card readers in it, USB-C, audio out, blah, blah, blah. Just loads of stuff that you'd expect. This can't be 33 quid, surely. And it looks like it is. But as I say, there's also HDMI out and Ethernet out and all the rest of it. Loads and loads of stuff. And it's really, really cheap. It feels like, apart from the fact that it's a no-name brand, it feels like it must be a mistake. Yeah, and it's got good reviews as well. Yeah. Lots of them. Really, really odd, isn't it? Well, there's 15 reviews and most of them are good. Yeah, it's almost worth a try at that price, isn't it? If you need one. I could use one when I've got my laptop on the go. It just makes it much easier to move the laptop around if you've got a kind of half station set up. Yeah. No, I'm tempted by this as well. I've been looking for one for my Chromebook. Maybe. If they did 5 monthly payments, I'd be there, but they're not. Swines. Yeah, I'll stick it in my basket in case I'm, I don't know, drunk at the weekend or something like that.
It can happen. It's the Lenovo 32-inch screen sitting there too, so it's probably unlikely I won't be that drunk likely. But yeah. Next up is the OnePlus 9 Pro. Obviously, the OnePlus 10 is coming out soon enough, but this is cheaper than on OnePlus's webpage at the moment over here on Amazon. It's 34% off. This is the 5G version, Morning Mist, 8GB of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage with a 2-year warranty for £543.96, and that's down from £829. I think that's a bit of a steal. That's a really good. It's got the Hasselblad camera on there as well, and 48 megapixel, 50 megapixel ultra wide telephoto monochrome camera. That's the lowest that it's ever been. Yeah,
it's nice, isn't it? I did a written review of the OnePlus 9, but not the Pro. The Pro's bigger than the ordinary one. Incidentally, the OnePlus 10 Pro is already out. That's on sale quite widely, but the one that's not is the OnePlus 10 Vanilla, which we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, I think, because we thought that they weren't going to do one and that Oppo were going to do one instead, but they are now doing it. So the 10 is coming, but it's not, as you said, it's not around yet. But I really enjoyed my time with the OnePlus 9. If it's anything like if the Pro's anything like the vanilla one, it'll be really good. And that's a great saving, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I like OnePlus because they've got the button on the side to silence.
You've got to be careful really now, though, that the model you buy has got that, because on some of the Nord models they've taken it away. The swines.
Oh no, the 9 Pro should have it.
It has, yeah.
Yeah, that's all right. And Midnight Mist sounds delicious.
Yes, indeed. Very nice indeed. Right, the Lenovo Tab P12 Pro is the Android tablet which has been adopted by Google to get the Android 12L version, which means that you can play on a decent sized screen instead of a poxy little phone screen with all the stuff that's coming along that they're developing for the Android 12L thingy. However, up till now this has been really expensive, and you think to yourself, what? I'm not paying that just to play with that. An Android tablet, 750 quid? But the Lenovo UK website are selling it currently for $599, so it's still a lot of money. But if you want to have a play, it's a good bit of kit. Comes with a stylus and a keyboard, the whole lot. You get a whole nice little package, and it looks like Lenovo and Google are in bed together with that one, so that you won't be left abandoned and not updated by the team running it. He says, crossing his fingers.
Yeah, so you have to use the e-coupon of Flash Buy or Flash.
You've got to use the word in the checkout.
Yeah, I'm just I'm looking to see if they offer anything, like could you buy that over 6 months or what have you. But the website isn't loading. Maybe it's something at my end. Or my blockers or something like that.
Oh dear.
I'm having trouble today.
You are, aren't you? It's usually my problem on Vodafone, which has been behaving today.
There it is now. uBlockers picked something out that they didn't quite like in the website there. Yeah. No, I don't see any monthly things, but maybe there is more. I'm not going to bore you as all as I paw through it there to try and find
the trouble is, it's a lot of money, isn't it, for an Android tablet when you can buy a Samsung Galaxy tablet, up in that range of money, and you'll functionally get a lot more with DeX and all the rest of it. But it just depends. I'd love to have one of these P12 Pros to see what Google are doing with Android 12L and the landscape and all the the multi-pane stuff that they're developing, and that seems to be one of the very few ways you can see that happening. I tried to do the split screen thingy on my Pixel 5 phone and I threw the switch for that to happen, and it does. You get a taskbar at the bottom. We spoke about it on PSE the other week, and you get a taskbar at the bottom, like it looks very much like a Chromebook, but it's just so fiddly small that you think, well, there's not much point really, is there? But if you had a nice big tablet, you could see it working properly.
Right. Oh, you don't get the keyboard and stuff like that in the package.
You get the stylus, don't you?
You get the stylus, okay. Yeah, but there's £119 for the keyboard pack.
Oh, right. Well, it's even worse then, isn't it? Even more expensive.
Yeah.
Forget that. Take it out.
But if you just want the tablet, it's still $599, which is good. Good. All right. Well, if you want to get in touch with us, you can by emailing us at gareth@techaddicts.uk. I have checked that in the past once or twice. There is also a Twitter account called @techaddictsuk. Again, I have checked that in the past twice. And then you can find me at Gareth Miles, GarethMyles, which I check regularly. And then there's GarethMiles.com, which is my .com.
Why do you keep saying you're checking everything?
Because I felt
in case you think it's dead.
No, just in case someone has written in the last while.
I see. You check the comments, right? The feedback.
I have. Right. I've had a look to see if anyone has emailed, and I can't remember when the last time it was. It could have been a January, but I'm not sure which one. Then, of course, I've got my
tumbleweed moment.
It is, yes. No one got it. Someone somewhere did it. If I listen back to it, I'll get it and I'll laugh, and it'll be for no good reason. Right. Yes, GarethMiles.com. You can find me there. Ted, you?
TedSalmon.com is me. Links to all the audio podcasts and all the MeWe groups. Come and join us in all of those. You'll find them all at TedSalmon.com. And if you want to buy me a coffee for all the stuff that I do, then feel free to do that. That's at paypal.me/TedSalmon. Thank you so much.
And I encourage each and every one of you to do that, because Ted's lovely. Right, okay, so we'll we'll speak to you next week. Me and this cantankerous old git. Take care, have a wonderful week, enjoy the weather, and stay safe, no matter what you do.
Bye.